we have understood or we have learned all of the fundamental concepts behind the blockchain. So the reason we have learned all of the fundamental concepts because the blockchain, in order to understand the blockchain, these concepts are important. So for example, we have learned about centralized systems. We have learned about peer-to-peer model, decentralized systems, distributed systems, and all of the things, right? So now we are in the position that where we can actually go and define blockchain, because so far we have not talked about the blockchain at all. So in this lecture, let's understand or at least high level understanding of what is blockchain, right? So what is blockchain? So blockchain is a decentralized and distributed network which stores the data in a manner that it is difficult or impossible to change or hack, right? So what we see over here is a couple of things, right? Like it's a decentralized network, meaning that there is no central entity. It's a distributed network, meaning that all of the parts of the computers or systems are not at one place, and it stores the data. Now, what data it stores, that we will look in the later sessions. And it is impossible to hack. So the data which gets stored cannot be changed. With the hack, I meant it cannot be changed. Okay, which means immutable. The data which is getting into the blockchain can never be edited. So, but the question is what kind of data and why it is not edited, how it is not edited, that we will look into later sessions. But for now, just have this thing in mind that it's a network of computers. It stores the data in a manner that it is impossible to change. Okay, so that is blockchain. Now, how does this the data gets stored on the blockchain is in the something called form of blocks, and these blocks are linked together using some cryptographic primitives that we will look into later sessions. Every computer has the same copy of the data, and this data keeps on growing on and on, right? Just have all of these things in mind. The questions like how it actually stores and how it what is the data structure of this block, how exactly the data look like, how exactly the block look like, all of these questions will be answered in our latest sessions. But for now, just have this glimpse of what blockchain is. Key characteristics, right? So decentralization is one of the major key characteristics of blockchain. There is no central entity to control this network, right? Second is immutables. So any record which gets added on the blockchain cannot be changed or deleted. The network is public; anybody can see it. The network is anonymous, meaning that your real world identity, like your Aadhaar card name, email, phone number, these attributes are no longer valid in the blockchain. So the blockchain works. So for a person to work on the blockchain, they need cryptographic key pairs as their identities. Now, looking at the cryptographic key pairs, nobody can identify your real identity, which is why it says it's anonymous. Next is transparency. Now, because it's public, everybody knows what's going on, right? And then it is the traceability. So traceability, like because all of the blocks are linked, you can actually trace when and what happens, right? So that's the traceability. And next is trustless. Now this is a kind of the trustless, no system is actually fully trusted. Building a trustless system cannot be possible. But what we meant with trustless over here is we want to reduce the trust. How we want to reduce the trust? By having a multiple authority instead of having a one single authority to manage the network, right? Then the last point is single source of truth, meaning that all of these computers in the network will have the same data. So the data gets replicated across the network, which means no matter from which node you ask for the data, you will get the same data, right? So every node will provide you the same data. So that is the meaning of single source of truth. Now let's take a look on the history of blockchain, how it evolves, right? So in 1991, Stewart and Scott came up with the concept of building distributed file system kind of system, which should be not controlled by one party and should be controlled by this decentralized file system kind of system, right? And after that, global crisis happened in 2007-8. The reason I kept this event because I feel that this event is really important for the evolution or the implementation of blockchain. Because the whole concept of the blockchain is not having a control of the central entity like government or any such bodies, right? In 2008, Bitcoin blockchain came, and Satoshi Nakamoto, which we don't know whether it's a person or a group, but then they developed Bitcoin blockchain. So that happened. The first blockchain happened in 2008. The first block which was coined or which was mined in the blockchain, will understand what is mining means. Just for now, just have in mind that the first block which gets added in the blockchain was in 2009. And later in 2013, Ethereum, Vitalik came up with the concept of smart contract. Again, we will look into smart contracts in the later sections. But Vitalik came up with the concept of smart contracts on Ethereum so that cryptocurrency is one of the use case on the blockchain. Similarly, they can have a different kind of other use cases using smart contract. So that was pretty much it. And then after this, we like every we have been seeing a growth of blockchains. Like many companies are solving some specific problem, and then they are building their own blockchains, and people are connected to it. So that's happening. So there are essentially three types of blockchain. One is a public blockchain where anybody can see what's going on, right? Anybody can join the network. Then there is a concept of consortium blockchain, uh, where the blockchain structure can consist of few organizations. Okay, like the participants of member can join. So, what does it mean? Is like now the blockchain is not public anymore. Only the stakeholders or the parties which do the business, right? The blockchain is available between these two companies. So let's say there are four organizations, they do business. So they will create their own blockchain within. So this it will kind of a consortium where the blockchain is only available for these four companies. Then there is a concept of private blockchain, where within the organization, only one organization will run a network. Okay, so the private systems is controlled by the users from specific organization, not from anyone else. Okay, so the participants of one organization can join. So the example of private blockchain is Hyperledger, I think, or don't worry about all of these types in beginning. Just understand that for now, blockchain is a public network, and just focus on the public blockchain. Because if you understand the public blockchain, you will get all of the ideas or the core concept behind the blockchain. So when do we need blockchain? 3 points, right? When there is something to store. Like I said, the blockchain has database, which is storing some data, right? So when there is a need of storage, and of course, in many applications and most of the application we need is storage, right? The second is when there is multiple parties involved. Okay, which means if you have single party, right, there is no point of having a blockchain because that is trusted, right? I mean, like if you have a single party, he does not, he don't have any trust problem with anyone. Everybody trusts on that system, then there is no need of blockchain. Which is why the private blockchain is kind of confusing. So why there is a need of private blockchain, because that's a single entity is running the system, right? Now the third is when there is an issue of trust between parties. Now you have a multiple parties, and if the parties don't have trust problem, like we talked about the trust problem earlier, right? So if these parties trust each other, then there is no need of blockchain. Okay, but if they don't trust each other, like whereas like in the case of consortium, right? We talked about like there will be these four companies do business, right? But it can happen that they don't trust each other. So in that case, you can imagine a need of blockchain. because they don't trust each other. There is a multiple party, and then they want to store data. So these three things is really important in order to understand when do we need blockchain, because not all of the places we're gonna need blockchain, right? So there are several use cases of blockchain. Finance and banking is one of the important use cases because in banking they do not trust each other. So for example, we don't know well we are keeping our money in the banks, but what is the guarantee that they will not run away with that money? Because the money does not resides in their bank, right? They invest it in something else. But what if this bank goes down and they tomorrow they tell you, okay, I am we are closed, we don't no longer have money. What will you do, right? So that kind of trust, you trust your bank to keep your money safe. So trust is there, right? And which is why the cryptocurrency uh, application or cryptocurrency concept scheme, where you don't need to trust on the system where you are putting your money, the blockchain system, because it's not run by one single entity. Similarly, there are several other use cases: supply chain, voting, healthcare, media, identity insurance. We will talk about some of the specific use case in the later sections, later sessions. Okay, so then you will understand in a much better way.